should be able to hear us now. Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. I hope everybody can hear us loud and clear also.
Should be good to go. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. Thank you, Andrew. Audio, video is good to go. Hopefully, you're all good to go. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. This is your first time here. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. May talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity and see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a top step performance coach since June of 2023. And by the beginning of next week, we're going to change up this intro. But that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experiences, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all the chat. Let us know how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you stayed flat for the day. Maybe you got caught up in some of this volatility for today because there was a lot of it in this range that we've been in. But let us know how you did. JD says, "Yo, I tried that sizing down thing. It works."
All right.
Funny how that works.
It does work.
Funny how that works. Dan Trader says, "Pretty good day." Dan Trader, shout out to you always being first in the chat. Thank you for joining us as always. Even though I'm losing, I'm getting more confident. My strategy isn't losing. I'm just doing dumb crap, but less and less. Scott Vaughn, that's usually the issue for most of us. It's usually not your strategy. Strategies, for the most part, are solid enough to put on some trades. So we have to not do all the dumb crap in between, and give our strategies to present the room to work. WLR Trader says got smoked. Back to Scott's comment, get smoked following your strategy because if you did, hopefully it was measured. If you didn't, and it was a bunch of randomness, then there's room to improve there, and try to eliminate some of the randomness in your trading. Andrew, down on the day, but managed downside very well. No club DLL. Love to hear it.
That's great news. Yeah. You know, if if you lost, you could lose well. That's part of trading. And I'm glad to hear that that people are learning a lesson that you don't have to force yourself to try and make money every day. I think that's where a lot of us lose control.
100%.
Accepting losses is part of the game and not focusing on wins and losses, but executing your trading plan. It's going to help you a lot.
Also, don't trade out of boredom. Realize you're bored, go do something else. Put together a Lego set, go play golf, go play pickleball, tennis, something like that. Uh, don't trade out of boredom. Uh, Trader Hub, but let's take a look. We do have AMD earnings that just released. Earnings per share came in at 96 cents. Estimate was 94 cents. Revenues came in at 7.44 billion. Estimate was 7.12 billion. AMD might be a little bit of a precursor to the Nvidia earnings that I believe we are getting next week. I got to check on the date for Nvidia. I believe it is next week, but some decent numbers out of AMD there. Of course, for all of these companies, the forward guidance is going to be a big thing. I was on Slow Markets with Dakota last night, and he was talking about, I believe he said Coca Cola. No, sorry, Ford. Ford had some concerns about their forward guidance due to tariffs and lowered their forward guidance. I hate to misquote quotes, but I think he said $2 billion. Don't quote me on that, chat.
I
But
don't think
Ford,
it's 2 trillion.
no, 2 billion. Ford is worried about tariffs, right? So when we look at some of these other companies reporting their earnings, Q1 is maybe not going to reflect that. So what they say as far as their forward guidance goes is extremely important, right? For AMD, chip maker, for Nvidia, for any of these tech companies that have physical products and ship worldwide, it's going to be a concern. Uh, Coach, anything else you have on the news?
Well, what's tomorrow? That's the news. Um,
Tomorrow is the news.
But
Yeah,
there was a decent meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada, it appears. Um, but still, the market shed off some bad news, and still holding in there. But I still think we're just taking time until uh, FOMC tomorrow.
100%. Shout out to Tally in the chat. Ford was concerned about a $2.5 billion tariff impact. That meeting that you said we had, Coach, between Canada and the U.S., we saw some crazy volatility during that time. It didn't really hold up, but it kind of goes to show that these markets are still at the mercy of a headline dropping at any time. Um, and we saw that volatility. It did sell off. We had some planned numbers out today as well. We had trade balance come in at negative 140.5 billion. Forecast was negative 137.15 billion. Not too much of an effect there, but Hogue did say after during the opening call after that number was released, keep an eye on that one next month and going forward. If these tariffs do stay in place, to see whether or not that number starts having an effect. Excuse me, on the markets. All right. Anything else you got, Coach?
That's it.
Trump also met with FIFA and a soccer team. But we have 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. And today, to the downside, we had the Russell down 1.32%, Lean Hogs down 1.52%, and natural gas down 1.83% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had platinum up 3.23% and continuing to rise, gold up 3.24%, and crude oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 3.36%. To talk about the big four, we have the S&Ps down 0.86%. We already talked about crude and gold. We had the Nasdaq down 0.89% to round out our big four. I have a 30-minute Nasdaq chart up here, Coach. What are we looking at?
Well, it was interesting. We started that sell off last night at buying into the U.S. market, but once again, where did it go to? That opening range at 50%, rejected immediately. Um, but overall, kind of a sloppy day. Um, I mean, earlier it looked like it was going to go down hard. Found some buying. I guess that was around the time of um, that was the opening. I don't, boy, scratching today is an achievement from my
Huh.
perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Interesting. We're just hanging around that 50-day moving average. I don't think any big money is brave enough to really load up in front of it. Um, so still looks friendly. 2-day reversal still holding a big candle from what's Friday. So neutral to friendly action from my point of view. But I don't want to overanalyze it.
Yep, I would agree with you. We did have that spike, and you talked about it, Coach, but that spike went right to, and this is why I think it's important to kind of have these visual targets on here. Did I get in a short here? No, but it's kind of crazy to see this happen, where that spike went right to 50% of that open. We had, a nice sell last night. Shout out to Dakota. I was on slow markets with him last night. He did get into a short in the Nasdaq. Took it off. He did have a target of 19,890. He took the trade off as we were getting off the air. But a valid trade. He put a poll in the chat and asked the chat to give him a grade on the trade. On the scale of 1 to 10, I gave it a 7 just because of where his location was. But if we look at this, he was short in the exact right spot and could have held that for a much bigger target than he was looking for. But he did his job taking that trade off. Uh, this was a wild day, though. Opportunity on both sides. If we look at this open, uh, It's a lot of back and forth. Some sharp movements. Like you said, Coach, if you took a scratch on a day like today, good job. Uh,
I look at that. The word indecision comes to mind.
yep. Yeah.
Although on the half hour, um, we're still we closed under the 200 moving average. Um, we tried late to get over it and failed. Um, so once again, I mean, it's more indecision, um, flattening up, um, and waiting for an answer from the Fed, I believe.
Yep.
Although I guess they're just trying not to get a surprise because
Yeah.
what is it, 98% chance it's going to
Let
be
me check. The
unchanged?
last I checked, it was 96%, but right now, yeah, 96.9% probability of no change, 3.1% probability of easing rates. So if we see a change tomorrow, what happens, Coach?
Um, Explosion in volatility.
Yep.
Um, it just, part of this too is the trade war. I mean, I think that's the upfront. I don't think there's much the Fed can do. The government has to float debt the next month at a record pace. So I don't envy being in that position of that decision.
Right.
Just be honest.
Seeing the equities continue to sell here after the close, maybe after those AMD numbers came out. Uh, but all right, let's see. Anything else you have on the equities, Coach? Take a look at the S&P. Anything different here as we see it continue to sell? I think what we talked about, how directional are these markets actually going to get before a rate decision, is exactly what we got over the past 2 days. Daily ATR in the S&P is 144 points. Today's range, high to low, 55 points. Yesterday's range, about the same, about 50 points. So we are due for an outside range day. What better day than tomorrow being a catalyst? But who knows, right? It could be any day of the week. But when we talked on Monday, yesterday, talked about this exact thing being the case. Uh, so I'm looking for some volatility to come through the rest of the week, maybe even just the second half of tomorrow. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach?
Nothing to add. Really. And by the way, anything can happen too in unplanned news with this tariff war. So it was interesting last night when we had that gold rally. We had the equities breaking. So um, Asia is becoming um, a big, it's not slow markets anymore. So
No, no, it's not.
um, that's all I have.
All right, good stuff. So let's go over to gold. S Jackson was asking what candle did I kind of draw out there. We look at every day start with the first 30 minutes of the Globex Open. So once the markets are open for trade again at 6 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. East, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's that first half an hour there. And you can see it in the S&Ps as well. Came right back up to that range. Volume VWAP was lower than the range. You had to be quick on this one because it was literally a quick spike on some comments from a meeting, and we rejected right away. Uh, One of the questions I ask, and we're doing the for the 150K subscribers, we are going to be doing a class a little later today about volume. One of the first questions I ask myself when I see high volume is it sustainable in the direction that that volume is going? And in this case, it wasn't. Is this a J trade right here, where we had high volume spike at the high? Once we close below it, risk on the other side, That was your trade for the day. Could have been. While this
Yeah,
looks Go ahead, coach.
how many points was that? Because that's bad. That was the highs of the day, the,
Yep.
at least the day session. Um,
Yeah,
wow.
this candle here was 22 points. But once we closed under it, I mean, you didn't get a 2 to 1 unless you were still holding that trade right now. But I mean, look at how big that candle is. I don't know that if I'm taking this, especially with a mini, I'm risking that entire candle. Uh, with some micros, maybe, but you got a 1 to 1 on a pretty big candle. And I think there was a question about tape bombs in here. Where was it? And a question about tape bombs and do you see them reverse? Sometimes you do, and we got to think about what that. Anytime we see a tape bomb, right? If we look at this volume here, that was almost as much volume as the open. Is it sustainable to continue to get candles as high as the open? It's not, right? So, you know, could there have been buyers coming into this? Yes. Were there definitely some stops that got ran in this action as well? 100%. Um, and is this always going to reverse? No. Sometimes, that volume is intentional and they're going to come in and continue to buy. That's why I really like the way we kind of frame this trade out of looking at the close under it. Because then that kind of tells you, at least in the short time frame, that this volume is not um, intentional, right? They're not looking to continue to buy this if they allow price to close below it. And could they just come back in and buy it again? They could, but we got to put risk behind something. This is a pretty good trade to put risk behind. Anyone catch that trade? And let's
No.
don't sound so disappointed.
Yeah, well, I am.
There will be another one tomorrow. I can almost guarantee
Yes,
that.
there will be.
Maybe the tape volume reversal is the algo's way of saying oops. It could be. All right, let's go over to gold as it's continuing to make new highs and not keep this market down. What are we looking at here? This is a daily.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday. This is yesterday's movement bouncing off that up through that descending triangle off the 20-day. Um, it seems like there's an entity in somewhere in Asia um, that's back into the mode of buying it. And boy, did that work out last night.
So funny you say that, coach. Shout out to the chat again. The collective information of the community that we have here, I think, is amazing. I was in a long on slow markets with Dakota last night. I just took it because I like the trade. We got a volume spike, and I'll go down to a shorter time frame to kind of take a look at this. But we got a volume spike right at 8 p.m. Central Time in gold. Where was that? So make sure we got to go back all the way over here. This volume spike right here, right at 8 p.m. Central Time in gold. Uh, Nick J. I don't know if Nick is listening, but he was in slow markets last night and said the Shanghai. Pretty sure you said the Shanghai Gold Exchange is back from a 3-day holiday last night,
Oh, well,
and they came in and bought it. So it kind of makes sense that we saw maybe a little bit of a consolidation over the past week or so where they may have had that holiday. And then as soon as they're back from holiday, they buy it and they buy it the whole day.
and in size, like you said, that spike was what was it, 3, 4 times the average volume, and that's big volume. That's the night session. So, um,
He's just buying gold again.
yeah, well, I do have a flair for the obvious, and it shows right there. We looked for this last night. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, we
I
did.
had it framed out in the half-hour bar,
Same here.
and it was interesting that we broke out to, of the range on price, but VWAP didn't. It was like a setup. What was the- well, um, and look at that that breakout held at 50%, held VWAP, never closed below it, and just finished towards the highs of the day. Was a great trade. Now, here's the danger of or the concern of jumping in front and assuming the volume's going to come through. Well, sometimes I will do that, but you have to look at the risk. I think the ATR in the gold now on a half hour is $9.
On the half hour, last night it was about $12,
Okay.
and then yeah, during the New York session, right around 10.
So that's, I don't, there's not many accounts that can afford to trade the big gold. But that's a massive move.
Yeah,
Um,
huge move.
but
I was
I'll
long
tell you
two
what,
micros and took maybe 50% of this initial move, and it was a $350 trade.
yeah, uh, micro gold is just a beautiful, beautiful contract.
Yep. Uh, and again, that daily ATR is still increasing. It's almost at $80 now. So volatility is not done. I don't think there's too much to talk about as far as the daytime trend. We can see it just continued. Uh, Sometimes the question is, this market's already gone without me. It's running without me. If there's a market to have a bias in, and I don't condone having a strong bias in any market, but if there is one, it's gold. And when it starts to move like this, I think you have to be very careful trying to fade this move if you didn't already get into it, right? Sometimes what happens with traders is, oh, the market went up so much without me. There's no trade for me long, so I'm going to short it. Sometimes the better trade is no
Oh,
trade. Because in this case, these shorts are the reason this continues to rally and has been rallying for so long. You were going to say something, coach?
yeah, that you just described a real dangerous mindset. It can't continue to go, so I'm going to sell it.
Right.
Um,
Watch this.
Watch this. Recognize that if you're doing that, that's an emotional. That is complete revenge trade. I missed it. Now I got to find a place to do the opposite. It never worked for me. Maybe it worked once. The other nine times will destroy you.
Shout out to JD and Hogue with the opening call, setting the tone for the day for Topstep. Every day, looking at a 1 minute opening range breakout trade in gold, and your trading strategy for entries can be as simple as a 1 minute opening range, take the breakout in either direction. Did that today. You had the best trade location that you could have gotten in gold when the New York session started. We did get a little bit of a pullback, right back to the high of the opening range, um, but it can be this simple. JD is doing great work with that 1 minute opening range break. Yeah, again, to me, it's my favorite trade that we take on Topstep TV. When I look at what I do as far as volume analysis goes, and then I look at a trade like this, I'm like, hey, I think what I do is fairly simple, but this is literally 1 minute candle that sets the tone for the day, and then it's about how you manage it from there, right? I think maybe we did get stopped out on a pullback on this trade because we moved our stop. But if you go with the initial stop on this trade, and I'm not saying that this is an easy thing to do, uh, we're talking about holding a trade for 8 hours and letting it work. But that trade has not been invalidated, coach.
Oh no, it's a great trade. Just like the 3 minute, it's
Yep.
the opening range breakout trade. I highly suggest if you should try some form of it. It develops um, a routine. It develops discipline. It doesn't, there's not much you can do to overthink it.
Nope, not at all. Uh, can you explain the reason why gold moves in one direction once it decides? Well, for one, I know Hogue was. I mean, there's more buyers than sellers. That's the simple answer. Hogue was monitoring the delta. He's been tracking it for the whole year, and delta has been increasingly negative. They're not getting right. If delta is increasingly negative, that means market sell orders are coming in. They are not getting any favorable price action here. But it could be one of two ways, right? There could also be, uh, which I think a lot of times we think of market sell orders. We think those are strong market participants, strong market participants pushing a market in a direction. But it could also just be a nonstop passive bid in gold, right? That they just keep buying higher prices. Um, and they're not stopping. Why does it keep going in this direction? Is because they have every reason in the world right now to buy it. I don't know if I have a great answer for that.
Well, from a fundamental point of view, Chinese are not buying dollars. They're substituting gold in their reserves. Um, it's part. I think part of the answer is the trade war. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's the bottom line. Um, and there's just not enough. There's a limited supply of gold right now. If we look at platinum, it's up and down, up and down. Silver, very mercurial. Platinum starting to catch a bid now. But looking at it daily, is platinum's, what does the daily look like? We haven't talked about platinum in a long time.
It's coming up towards
But
the high of that range. Daily.
so if you look at the difference between platinum and gold, there's a demand for gold. It's coming out of Asia, most likely China. It's exacerbated by this trade war. Um, Instead of buying, treasury bonds or U.S. equities, or um, they're choosing gold. So, and they have a long history of it. That is an assumption. I've heard that. I've thought this myself. It's also been on a lot of minds of the so-called fundamental experts. But the bottom line is there's demand for it. So this is a demand market. Um, and we see it through the charts. Who's doing it? I really don't care. I mean, I mean, one of the things trying to figure out who's doing it isn't going to make your trading any better. I suffered through that a long time, but it's a good question. But as traders, I got you a story. It was actually in the gold market. This is in the trading pits, and someone was supposed to buy 1,000 ounces of gold. Um, and this was through a brokerage firm, and he puts the order in, and somehow he said buy 1,000. 1,000 ounces of gold would be a 10 lot contract.
Okay.
Was buying 1,000 contracts.
Oh, a
It
lot.
was a huge, and so they're filling it. He's get and then Mark's exploding the upside. He goes, God, who's buying? The guy asks on the phone, who's buying this?
It's you.
It's you. Yeah. Very large error, but why I bring that up, it's the volume. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's an accident, but that's why and volume moves prices. If there's no volume, there's no action. Hope that helps explain it.
Uh, Edward says, "Coach, please explain a forging market." Uh, Not sure on that one, Edward. Or Coach, is that something that you said, a forging market?
I don't know what a forging. I've never heard of it. Um, I'll ask around, but I've heard of other things would start with an F in a market. This forging market, I've heard that's uttered by myself. But no, I'm not familiar with that.
Maybe like, yeah, Edward, if you could maybe use a different word in that. But looking at gold, we had the candle that made the all-time high in this contract. We are trading significantly inside that candle right now. 50% of it is right around 34.45, kind of right near the highs of the day. Um, we talked about this yesterday. We were at yesterday's close, we were 5% off the all-time high. Gold did its job and took care of more than half of that today, ending the day up 3.5%. We're 2% from an all-time high with a catalyst tomorrow, but I don't even think gold needs a catalyst. We could be at all-time highs before, Powell wakes up tomorrow morning. If they're going to continue to buy this in Asia, again, not a market that I'm looking to short for a very long time. Maybe a quick scalp, but I got to ask myself, is it really worth it if the market is going to be moving like this? Um, and again, anything can and will change. This is not trading advice, just educational information only. But this is a definition of a bull market in gold.
Okay, we have a definition here from Edward
Okay.
Marquez. I mean, green candles with negative delta. Hmm,
Okay.
thank you.
Green candles with negative delta. Prices continuing to move higher. Right. Delta is the difference between market order buys and sells. Right. When we're talking about volume. So if a market is continuing to push higher on negative delta, could mean one of two things. Shorts are coming into the market and they're not able to get price to move lower. Right. And when that's the case, right, if I try to short something with a market order and the wall that I keep selling into keeps getting higher, right? There's a passive bid. Um, we talked a couple of times about what it looks like when a market just continues to buy up. And coach, if you're buying gold and you have a price target of let's say your price target on the futures is 4,000, you kind of don't want to just buy whatever the market has. Um, right? You don't want to push price higher unless I guess you have to. But if you're just continuing to passively bid, maybe my bid starts down here, the market keeps pushing higher. Okay, so I'm going to bid here now. Market keeps pushing higher. Think about an auction, right? If the price just keeps pushing higher, right? Somebody has to sell to those bid orders to those passive bids, and they're selling to them, but price is just not going lower, and that's exactly what's happening here. They're not aggressively buying this market, right? Buying market, they're buying passive bids and just pushing those passive bids up, pushing this market up. Um,
Yeah, and you would assume. Here's one of the ways to think about it. Think about it. It's a flow. So the market buyers, it's measuring market orders. How do they do that? That means there's a resting sell order that gets hit. A resting buy order can't take out a resting sell order. It can't. It's because it's resting. It's at a limit price.
right,
So now this is happening, and there's more sell, quote unquote, imbalance of sellers than buyers, and the market's going up. That's a really strong sign. Now, if these sellers have to turn, who are they going to buy it from? The buyers? So it's usually a sign that this market it has a high probability of going even higher. Um, and it doesn't happen a lot. We used to call it what, the Judas candle. Um,
right.
it doesn't appear what's in there. Um, so when you see that, and let's say it breaks out of the candle to the upside, there's a very high probability it's going to continue.
And what we're also seeing, right, talking about passive orders, there were passive offers, which are passive sells, the entire way up in gold. And sometimes, and we talked about this before, but sometimes when you see a big order on the depth of market, the market can do one of two things. It could either fill it or run away from it. If you were watching the gold dom, every time one of those orders popped up, the market had no problem filling it. I don't recall exactly what the prices were. I was calling them out during the opening call this morning, but the market came up to one of those passive orders and just filled it. Came up to another one. And these are not small orders, right? 120 lot, 200 lot, and filling them with no problem. And that's a great sign that, you know, market participants are saying, hey, sell whatever you want. This market is not going lower. And do we get pullbacks? Yes, but the general flow of this market has been to the upside. And those drastic pullbacks, they happen on the, three we see the 3-day pullback in gold. Um, but until that, this is just an opportunity to buy, at least the way I'm looking at it. All right. Anything else on gold, coach?
Um, n- it's getting repetitive. So yeah, look,
Yeah.
look at Asia tonight.
Yep. I went in the green room this morning for the opening call. First thing I said was, Hoag's like, "Hey Jay, how you doing this morning?" I just said, "Buy gold, buy gold." I don't know that there was a cleaner trade or a more obvious, if you will, trade. Um, all right. Chauncey has a question here. Coach Jay, in the ES, the market is accepting into last week's value. Will you anchor VWAP to anything last week or just look for large volume candles or levels from last week? Let's take a look back at the ES. What I'm looking at is April 2nd, April 9th, daily candles, and how we respond to these ranges. Tomorrow, I'm not expecting, and my expectations could be wrong, but I'm not really expecting to trade the equities for much of a directional or bias trade. Maybe a couple quick scalps, and I'm going to be on fast markets tomorrow. But I'm not looking to trade the equities for much of a directional play before the rate decision. Um, I think, and my charts are kind of clear outside of these two ranges uh, because that rate decision has the potential to kind of clean the slate of anything that we have in front of us and set a new starting point. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this, right? We have these two major candles. I think that's enough information as far as levels go. And then once we get that rate decision and the press conference tomorrow, that might be my next anchor point going forward. So I'm almost ready to kind of just clear my charts of anything. Go ahead, coach.
No, I was just checking the same thing, the S&P. If we can put a line chart on that daily,
Okay.
it's turning a bit. And against those old highs and that April 2nd candle, um, I don't know. I think it has some room. I personally, it has some room to the downside. It's
Yeah.
it's not acting well up here. Um, then again, there is FOMC, but if I didn't know there was FOMC, I would say this is starting to turn back down.
Yep.
By the way, Paul Tudor Jones made a comment that looks like there's new lows going to happen before there's any kind of settlement of this trade war.
Interesting.
Um,
Buy gold.
and by gold, I know. Who am I to question Paul Tudor Jones?
Right. Uh, buy gold. You might want to buy digital gold as well. Shout out to all of our gamers out there. I know the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer dropped today, and Take Two Interactive made new all-time highs. I don't know where I was going with that, but let's go over to crude oil. Uh, uh, Crude oil. What are we looking at here, Coach? On a daily.
Um, Finding support, as we talked at the bottom of this long long term range. Um, Look, it seemed to me it was oversold. Still, I think the sell side is tired out. Looking at those volumes, I mean, that's lower than average volume. Um, Natural rise. I don't see much that really stands out. Buy high, sell low has been the game. We did close above the 200 on the half hour, so
Good.
find some support there tomorrow. Last night was I was too enthused with the not black gold but shiny gold, and what a buy that was last night. Um that was out of Asia too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was right around the same time. Actually, not right around, exactly at the same time. We saw that buying coming in. Um, yeah, filled the gap that we started the week with. Kind of traded up towards that $60 level. I think we were in a long in the house account opening range breakout trade again, and another really nice one again. Sometimes simple is enough. Sometimes simple is enough. Let's look at that 1 minute opening range. Pretty small range. Not going to risk a whole lot. It's okay to be wrong because sometimes you're going to be wrong. But how much is it going to cost you when you are? Broke out above the high. This is a $140 risk. Maybe you give it a couple ticks. Say a $200 risk. If you buy the high, the opening range, again, very simple mechanical trade setup. And if you were able to hold it at the high, it paid almost a 10 to 1.
I'll take the 2 to 1 for consistency. And like you said, if that pays out 2 to 1, and let's say it's 50-50,
Yep.
and you take 2 to 1, it's good money. You want to do that all the time. Um, and like I said, that there was. Here's another thing with crude down here. The ranges are the volatility is coming out. Um, what's the ATR this morning?
$2.50 on the daily. If we look at a 3 minute chart from the New York session open, around 15 ticks, 13 ticks.
15. There you go. And that's come down quite a bit. Um, Nice trade.
Yeah, really nice trade there. All right, let's answer some questions. I think we went through a lot of the markets. Coach, I'm going to ask you for a scouting report in about 5 minutes or so, but let's get through some of these questions. AM, you had a question earlier. I'm going to respond to that. Um, but Jen and John has a question. When did you feel like losing was more of a normal thing? How do you desensitize yourself to it? When you just lose, lose and you lose, and you realize that it's necessary. When did you feel like that? I mean, I think it took a little while for me to accept that, hey, I'm going to be wrong even when I'm right, and that's just something that I can't control. Uh, it took a while though. It definitely did. And every once in a while, even still, when I get stopped out, I'm not happy about it. I'm happy when I manage my losses. Uh, but no one, I don't want to lose a trade when I put it on. I think every trade that I put on, for the most part, if I'm following a process, is a good trade. Uh, I was trading with some traders earlier today, and I took a short in the equities, and it stopped me out. I said, "Oh shit, it was a bad trade." And that was it. Continued to trade from that point because if I see another opportunity, I'm going to take it. Uh, I think that that's kind of being desensitized to it, right? Where not no, I think though you become desensitized when your losses aren't catastrophic, because then they're less emotional, right? If you take one loss in your account and it blows your account, there's no way to become desensitized to it because that's an extremely emotional thing to blow an account. So, what would you say to that, coach?
Well, How to desensitize yourself? It's a very good question.
Mm,
This might sound repetitive, but you have to have some routine. You have to have a routine, a trading plan of a setup that you're willing to take. Whatever it is, the opening range breakout trade, a close above a moving average, a fair value gap, whatever, there's whatever that reason, measuring out your risk and taking that trade and accepting the risk and knowing that over time, if there's an edge, it will show up. It it never shows up in 1 to 10 trades. So your mindset then becomes as an executing broker. This is what you're executing the plan. And then over time, that routine removes whether you're winning or losing. It's knowing that if you really have a trading plan that you can execute over time and have an edge, then you're desensitized from both sides of winning and losing. Because your expectations are in line. Where I know most traders get into trouble is when we expect to win all the time.
yep,
That's where the mindset of wins and losses can really d- t- create really poor decisions. Because and even the best trading plans have drawdowns. You could lose 5 times in a row.
right.
I think about that. You're going to ask any trader that's been around a while. But that's where we preach about risk management, which is really about account management.
Yeah,
So when your mindset is of executing a trading plan, you will over time desensitize from both losses and wins because your ego is in front when you feel like you have to win.
100%.
I've done it.
Coach Finch said no one is immune to drawdown. It's just a matter of when. Yeah, yeah, you're 100% right, Coach. You can try to avoid them. They're going to happen. Going to happen. Uh, Overstable has a question. At what point do you delete anchored VWAP from a previous session with high volume? When I get another one. If you read the anchored VWAP book from Brian Shannon, he talks about a handoff, right? Where you might have this anchored here, then we come back down and test it, and then you might anchor another one from that one. Um, but it's usually when another high volume spike comes in. Uh, AM had a question earlier, Coach, and I think we talked about this earlier. We'll continue to talk about this. AM said, I can pass combines in 2 days and then I blow the XFA in 1 day. Not sure what my problem is. This goes for everybody, myself included. Tried to rush the process. Coach, you had an analogy about cars trying to turn a corner too fast and driving off the cliff yesterday. Just understand, if you pass a combine in 2 days, expect to lose it. That's it. I'm not going to say it any other way. That you do not have a problem. The only problem that you have is that you're rushing. Pass a combine in 2 days, expect to lose it in about 2 days. Plain and simple. There is no problem. There's no psychology issue. There's nothing like that. The only psychological issue might be that you're rushing away from something. Whatever you feel might be chasing you, that you have to rush this progress in the markets, it's going to catch up to you every single time you try to rush the market to do something that it's not going to do. So just stop. If you're passing a combine in 2 days, I know we are allowed to do it. You're allowed to trade 15 minis as well. Just because you're allowed to do something doesn't mean you should. You're passing your combine in 2 days, expect to lose it. That answer is not going to change. It goes for everyone. I've passed combines in 2 days. I've lost them because you're conditioning yourself to rush. So just understand that the cycle of, "Oh, I can pass these combines. I can pass 10 of them. I can pass 20 of them really quick. There's nothing wrong with me. My strategy works." One, you're not considering the drawdown of resetting those accounts, right? Because we're getting the false sense of accomplishment of passing the combine in 2 days. And then two, more often than not, and some people say, well, no, I just caught on to a good trade. Okay, sounds good. More often than not, if you're passing a combine in 2 days, you're trading a trading style that's unsustainable. You're over leveraging. And that's why that drawdown phase of account resets happens. But we neglect that because all I need is one to pass. And then you're taking that over leverage mindset into an account that you have to, at a minimum, trade for 5 days. You don't even know how to trade an account for 5 days if you're passing it in two. So slow down. Coach, anything else you want to add to that?
Very well put. One thing I would add is most of the time, a large percentage of the time, you got on the right side of a market, but what is the goal? Is consistency. And believe me, we've all done it, and it happens a lot. Of getting into a combine, um, getting in 2 days, the market it was aligned with your trade. Now, if we think about a coin flip, right? You could be fooled into going, look, I called the heads four in a row.
Hmm, I'm a genius.
Yeah, and I'm not putting you down. I mean,
Not
that's
at
what
all.
we're as traders, that's our mindset is I can beat the odds. But can you do this over time? And that's the key is the measurement. Now, I would say if you can get it past immediately pare down, you've passed the combine, pare down and see how you can do over a period of time because that is what investor, in this case, Topstep, wants to see. It wants to see consistency. And consistency is another word for time. So getting getting into or passing a combine is what one step. Everybody likes to say this is a marathon, not a sprint. I say it's more than a marathon. Marathon at least ends.
Right.
There's this doesn't end when you have discipline and you've measured your risk and in your trading plan, and you can do this over time. Well, then you can build big purse, so to speak. But you can't. It's not. Rome wasn't built in 2 days. It takes some time. Understand that. And if you do it again and you pass, immediately go to micros because I'm pretty sure getting passing that you didn't do that with micros.
Nope. No, I would agree with that, coach. Slow down, everybody. Uh, Player has a comment in the chat says, "Stay small enough, long enough, you'll be big enough soon enough." I could not agree more with that. Right? We use the analogy of babies walking. Right? Got to crawl before you walk. If you go straight to walking, you fall down. You're gonna get upset a couple times. Right? But eventually, you get to a point where you can walk sustainably. as you grow. It's the same thing here, right? Every You're in a rush, and I think what happens is we get in this cycle of trying to rush and saying, "Okay, when I get to that point, I'll be good." Right? It literally is like having a fitness goal. Right? Summer's coming up. I want to look good when I'm on the beach. Uh, I'm eating Twinkies every day,
You'll
and
need
not
to unlock your app.
Siri. I'm not talking to you. I'm eating Twinkies every day, and not going to the gym. But I got 4 days before my vacation. I'll get to the gym then. It's not going to work.
And
It's not gonna
no, and
work.
that's
No amount of crunches, push-ups, cardio, whatever you're gonna do is gonna get you to your fitness goal 4 days before your vacation. Just accept who you are and get out there, right? But it again, put time into this. You're putting time into it anyway. And that's the scary part. And I think that's why a lot of people start to rush is because you look at all of the bullshit that you've done for a long period of time and you say, you know what, I have to start proving some results from this. Guess what? The market doesn't care that you did that bullshit. It actually welcomes it. You have to at some point say, hey, I'm going to stop and actually take the time to put into this. If you try to erase years of
neglect.
one learning, right? Because it doesn't start off as BS, it starts off as learning. But then at some point, you get into a cycle. If you're, this trader who continues to pass combines and not get payouts, at some point you get into a cycle where it's you deciding that I need to show results for all of the work that I've done, and the time frame for that is 3 days.
Yeah.
Slow down, coach. Any other markets you want to talk about?
Let's look at, we were talked about the Swiss franc. Let's bring that up again, starting with the daily. Bring
And
up
we're
that.
saying all this stuff because we've both been here or
Oh,
been there before. Both of us.
hands down. I'll just repeat it myself. I used to get big moves because I still am a little stubborn.
I definitely am.
Um, and then I would just happen to be on the right side, and I mistook that for my genius. And so then when I'd put on another position and it'd go against me, and I wouldn't get out till I was right. Well, here's the problem with, and I'm bringing this up is you don't have to be right. You have to trade right. I was stubborn to the point where it's called the roller coaster effect. I mean, and there were times I'm still leaning on my genius from that last trade. I just have to go do it again. And it kind of like blowing combines. Next thing I know, I'm right back to where I was, and maybe even worse because I'm only getting out when they force me out, kind of thing. It's common.
Yep.
Slow down, size down, if, and especially after you pass the combine, because you want to build. So you'll get there.
Stuff, coach. Swiss franc.
Holding that 20-day moving average kind of looks like gold. Didn't move like gold today, but um, it's hugging that 20-day moving average. It's got a correction sideways. Um, we look at the 30. we're-
Ooh,
We held that, went down, tested it, held it, and went right back up. I This market has some, to me, from my point of view, has some upside potential. Um, so I like buying the Swiss or the yen. You look at the yen too.
the yen. Oh, that looks a little better. Oh, that
Yeah.
200. That looks
Yep.
really nice. Let's look at it daily.
Yeah. So you had look at that. It was a little different than the Swiss. I mean, it got got hit a little more, but held at 200, turning around. The dollar's weakening, um, and there's to me, I'm looking for opportunity to sell the dollar vis-a-vis buying the currencies,
Good stuff. Good stuff. That is
foreign
Coach
currencies.
Foreign currencies. That is Coach Paul's scouting report. We appreciate it. Also, biggest news of the day: Topstep announcing live account performance bonuses. Check your email. I don't have all the ideas, all the numbers there, but incentivizing traders to get into live accounts, hold on to live accounts, up to $250,000 of bonuses potentially, right? And yes, there is a long road to get there, but there is a road. Right? A lot of times, or some of the comments that I've seen on social media, on Twitter, it's like, oh, who wants this? Who Shout out to KJ, Crypto's KJ, who's probably not watching, but is the number one trader on the leaderboard right now. He reposted it and as, hey, this is a great thing for the prop space. And again, it's just the start of many good things to come for Top Step this year. But bonuses for traders in the live accounts. Uh, or you can go to another prop firm that sells you discounts and be on this ride that this guy's on. Uh, I got nothing else. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Coach Paul, thank you as always for running the show. Andrew, thank you for sending over the questions. Chat, trade well, manage your risk. Remember, tomorrow is FOMC day, so it may be a little wild. Uh, but if
Kind
it
of like that.
is, yeah, it's gonna be like this guy on this ride. Um, Manage your risk, and you
Oh,
can get off the ride if you need to.
I'm feeling pain just looking at
Yeah,
that.
that it was either probably the scariest or coolest or a combination of both things that this guy's ever done in his life. I don't know how he landed that, but if he tried to repeat that, he couldn't. That horse is probably kicking him in the face. That's that 15 lot mini YOLO trade that you put on. He couldn't do that again if he tried. All right.
Um,
Thanks everybody. Talk to you all tomorrow.